Philosophical concepts are not relics of the past, but vital tools for navigating the complexities of our modern world. They provide individuals with the intellectual foundation to make ethically sound decisions, think critically, and engage meaningfully in both personal and societal contexts. In an age marked by change and uncertainty, the relevance of philosophy remains undeniably paramount.
The term consciousness refers to the felt or, depending on the context, understood experience that a thinking being has of its own actions. This implies a minimal subjectivity, without necessarily considering consciousness as a distinct entity from the soul, and a relation to oneself that is generally called reflection. In addition to these characteristics, consciousness can be interpreted as follows. 1. An immediate relation to thought, through which the individual acquires a more or less clear knowledge of the contents of his or her mind. 2. An internal sense of oneself that allows the individual to perceive himself or herself as the same person over time. 3. A relation between an individual and the object of his or her perception or thought. We then speak of consciousness of, or more precisely of, intentional consciousness. 4. A more or less precise knowledge of the distinction between good and evil, either as a perfect understanding of the universal norms of action, or more modestly as an evaluation of behaviors according to their particular value relative to others. This is what is called moral consciousness, or, in specific situations, good and bad conscience. Descartes is generally credited as the pioneer of the concept of consciousness. Although he proposes a definition of thought marked by the reflexivity that is associated with consciousness by the word to think, I understand everything that happens in us in such a way that we immediately perceive it by ourselves. Principles of philosophy. The term consciousness does not explicitly appear in his writings. In reality, the French word was introduced by Costas, 1700, the translator of John Locke's essay concerning human understanding, 1690, who chose conscience as the equivalent of the English term consciousness. According to Locke, consciousness refers to the inner feeling of our own activity, allowing us to perceive ourselves as being the same person and thus constituting our personal identity. Locke's writings are the basis of contemporary reflection on self-consciousness. In response to Locke, Leibniz distinguishes between several levels of consciousness depending on the beings to which it belongs. New essays on the human understanding. Kant ultimately reduces consciousness to a logical function that he calls transcendental apperception, considering it as the most crucial condition of experience and as the means by which an object acquires its unity. Critique of pure reason. The moral understanding of consciousness is put forward by Rousseau, who considers it to be a divine instinct, a meal. Kant transforms this emotional understanding by describing it as a rational fact by which we become aware of the moral law within us. Critique of practical reason. Hegel, in his phenomenological description of the mind, broadens the common meaning of the term by making consciousness not only a principle of thought but also of all reality. Phenomenology of spirit. Nietzsche and Freud sharply criticize consciousness in all its meanings, considering it to be secondary to effective reality, the body in the case of Nietzsche and the mechanisms of the unconscious in the case of Freud. This profound devaluation of consciousness curiously coincides with the emergence of phenomenology, Brentano, Husserl, Heidegger, and then in France Merleau-Ponty and Sartre, which seeks to describe reality from the point of view of the consciousness to which it appears. Intentionality becomes the essential property of consciousness, meaning that all consciousness is consciousness of something. Today, the phenomenological approach to consciousness is widely predominant. In-depth analyses of its moral dimension can be found in Jankelevich, Bad Conscience, while analytical philosophers, Dennett, Consciousness Explained, and the contemporary German tradition, Tugendhat, Self-Consciousness and Self-Determination, explore its relation to personal identity.